Hey, everybody. Welcome. It's Town Hall. It's good to be back. It's been weeks and weeks since I've been here. I was a little nervous that the gods were against me this morning because my son called. He's like, remember that flat tire you helped me with yesterday? I need help again. And I was like, uh-oh. And then it all worked out. So we're all good. But it's good to see everybody on this Monday before the Thanksgiving break. If you were here before we started the recording, I said to Kelly, I don't know if I got the oomph to get through it, but I guess we'll find out, right? I think we'll all find out. How are we? Who'd like to share? I haven't been here in a while. I sense that you probably have created a new flow of the hour. And so I'm just going to step back and just let it wash over me. So have at it. Oh, that's it. That's the hour. That's what happened.
We keep saying, wish we had Mike's cards.
I shared the cards with Alyssa. I put them on a Google Keep.
She claims she didn't get it.
Oh, what a lie that is. I don't even know where I might have thrown the cards out after that. I'm like, look at me, all like digital. I'm going to throw the cards away.
Whoa.
Wait a second.
Threw away
I
your
can't
backup.
believe that's the case. Is she here, Alyssa? Because I'm going to yell it. No, she's not. All right, fair enough. AT Town Hall topics, and it's shared with her.
There you go.
I don't know if it'll come up on the there. Can you guys see it?
There you
Kinda.
go. It's there.
It's there. Thank you, Lori. I appreciate it. It's shared with- Luckily, I'm not vindictive in any way, so it's all right.
That's okay. I've saved a couple of Elise's wakelets, and they keep disappearing on me too.
Oh, really? I wonder what's going on. It's a tech issue. So let's see. I got my list. Unless people have something they'd like to share, something good that's happening, a question you have for the group. Anything?
We tackled all of Irene's issues last week.
We did. Irene, your issues have been solved.
Did a great
That's
job.
great news.
Oh no, I have lists of more issues. Are you kidding?
Oh, she has good ones.
Don't worry.
Only thing, that's like my middle name, issues.
Don't worry. I'll paybacks will come in a few weeks.
Oh, that's so funny. And you know what I found I fell into that troubling issue that I have when things are recorded. And I'm like, oh, I missed the town hall. I'll put it on while I'm doing something else and I'll listen. And then I never do. And then I always forget to, and it's the same thing that happens with all those recorded conferences and stuff. I have the best intentions and I just don't do it.
I've now scheduled my watching of recorded conference stuff. I put it on my calendar and it's got the link right now. The link is to Closing the Gap.
Mm-hmm.
And so I put it in the earliest open spot, even if it's like 15 minutes, I put it in that spot. So at least gets me started on that and watching that while I might be doing like IEP goals.
Yeah, that's always my
all that
thought.
fun stuff.
Exactly. I'm like, oh, I'll put it on another computer and then I'll continue to work and I'll listen and then I'll turn over and look every once in a while. And I just don't do it. I just don't do
There's
it.
good stuff there. I mean, I so enjoyed, over the last couple of years being able to watch things from the AAC and the cloud. That was like one of the first ones in our field like 5 years ago that they did that way. And we could just keep them up there and just go back and watch. And then, now, I mean, there were so many good things from ATIA. I never got through all the ATIA stuff though. I mean, it was like hundreds.
I tried, but no. The AAC in the cloud though, I'm now referring my coworkers to some of those videos because they're that good.
There's good stuff there.
Yeah, there is good stuff. That's a really good idea. Yeah. And even last week, and Kelly and I were at the Patents conference last week, which was virtual, and there was really good sessions again. And I'm like, I just don't have time right now to go sit, but I'll catch up on it, knowing full well the minute it comes out of my mouth to myself, I'm like, you're never going to watch those things. You're never going to, but hopefully.
And then I've also been trying to tweet the ones that I'm watching, just so that if there's anybody that, follows my Twitter feed, which is very intermittent. Thanks to
that
Mike
one person out there that's like, oh my God, Kelly Fonner's watching this right now. I think that's a good idea. It's funny because for our AT project for New Jersey, we signed up for the Learning Center from ATIA. So anybody in our state can have access to it. Lori, you can have access to it. I don't know that anybody else here is from New Jersey, besides Naomi and I. But we're starting to have that thought too, Kel, the same kind of idea, like putting together short little playlists and suggesting it to people and then say, guess what? We'll have a webinar in like a month and we can chat about these things. And so somehow to kind of build a little community around the watching of it.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, well, we haven't gotten further than just the idea at this point, but that's the plan.
Kind of like a mini book study thing.
It's kind of like
I
that,
like
right?
it.
Lori,
Really
like
good
on,
idea.
yeah,
A
like on
nice,
different
nice
topics.
PLN thing. Yeah.
Yeah. I thought that would be kind of a good way to maybe get people interested, because sometimes that whole idea of watching them, and it's what Kelly's doing by tweeting it out. You're watching them, but wouldn't it be great to have somebody to chat with? Just like if you were there, you could chat in the chat, or if we were in person, you could chat to somebody next to you. And so trying to find some way to kind of replicate that in a virtual environment, hopefully. So that's our plan. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
And like anything else, we'll leave those webinars open too. So even if you're not from New Jersey and you're not watching them through our account, I mean, if you're watching them or just interested in the topic, it's still an opportunity for people to come together and chat about it. So that's
We've got that in Wisconsin. We have the statewide where you can watch whatever what's it called, Mike? When you can do it, ATIA.
the Learning Center.
Yeah, Learning Center. Thank you. You would think I would know that, but I'm gonna send that on to Kathy White. The suggestion of having watch party, and yeah, cool.
Yeah, I think that's cool. And is Kathy from like the state? What is she, from the Department of Ed?
Yeah, she's got a contract. She used to be like the main AT person in Janesville Schools, which is one of our large school districts.
Okay.
But now this is her retirement job. So now she is contracting with the state project. Yeah.
I'm trying to tap into how other states are using the Learning Center, and see what other people are doing. I know some departments of ed are using it. And like Brian's using it in Nebraska through the Department of Ed, through the AT program. But ATIA said there wasn't another ATAC doing it. So we're kind of looking at it broadly, like, adults, children, community-based, whatever it might be. It's kind of everybody, where some of these other projects that are using it are more focused. It's all about education.
Yeah.
And so I'm just curious. I'd love to kind of pick people's brains of how they're using it too.
Yeah, that's Wisconsin. Wisconsin is Wisconsin AT Forward.
AT Forward. I'll have to look at that. I'll check it out. Hi, Lauren. Lauren, we don't really have a plan yet, so feel free. Have your voice heard in the plan.
Hi.
Hi. Okay.
It's okay. I don't really have a plan. I was just, it was sort of a crazy day, and because we only have 2 weeks, or 2 days this week, with the Thanksgiving break, the way that our county does it, and central office staff was asked to be available for substitute teaching for these days because they were expecting a lot of absentee, and so I didn't get called for my subbing job today. So I was like, oh, I canceled all my meetings. This is great.
This is great.
I'm just trying to catch up on stuff. Yeah.
Well, thanks
but
for
I'm worried that tomorrow we'll have a lot out. So
yeah.
We'll see.
Oh, you feel like the one day was good, which means automatically the other day might not be so good.
Yeah, exactly.
I feel for you then. I will send positive vibes your way then. Yeah.
Thanks.
For sure.
I was researching new straps for our cases, and we use these like lanyard straps. So I was taking all of my conference badges and like measuring the strap type and which one we want to do. And I was trying to find a vendor, and I was talking to our school and community relations person to see what have we already ordered in the past and what vendors are approved. And so anyway, I was digging down deep in lanyard world. So I'm glad to be doing something different. Oh, you know how it goes.
Oh, that's interesting. That might be a nice opportunity for a partnership with somebody in your community that does like promotional materials.
Yeah.
Like to provide stuff like that.
I don't need to order 100. I probably need 25 right now, or 40 at the most, but like to have to order 125 or whatever the minimum order was. Ugh.
Yeah,
Oh, well.
I always wonder, like places like that make those promotional stuff. Like, do they have like extras lane? You know what I mean? Did they make 125 for an order of 100 just to have extras in case they got a weird print or something? Might not be bad to check in with them and see what they
They
say.
usually have a few misprints.
Right? Or maybe someone didn't pick up their order for whatever reason and they're
Mhm.
just sitting there. Yeah.
Yeah, we're happy to have the ones that say, some random company name.
Right.
Doesn't matter to us.
It's a conversation starter. Like, that's weird. Why do you have a window indoors place? I don't know.
Exactly.
If
It
a
could
large,
be kind of interesting.
It could be.
if there's a large industry near you, you can also ask them if they have lanyards they donate to you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
we
a
got a
good
big
idea.
old Amazon,
Mhm.
distribution center here. I'm sure they can have, a handful of lanyards that they could share with us, but
Yeah. I'm
finding
sure.
the right contact is probably harder and takes longer. Once I have that person's name and information, then I'll just hit them up. But
Do you have an Amazon distribution center that you can go and talk to and return packages to?
it's not far away. It's yeah.
Okay, because like in our Amazon Fresh, there's a Amazon Depot, and I went to talk to them about a problem thinking, well, they should know, and they didn't, and they handed me the customer service phone number, which I don't have here.
Mm,
But if you have one, you walk in and you say, hey, I need to talk to customer service. They'll give you this card with a number on it.
nice.
A real person you can call.
Yeah, I know. I was like shocked.
That's a good idea. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Even,
pretty amazing.
don't be, I've learned to not be very shy about reaching out to the companies too, to the AT companies, and like, hey, you guys have a box of lanyards you'll send our way?
It seems like Don
Try the
Johnson-
Xfinity stores too.
Oh, Xfinity stores. Yeah.
Ah.
What was that,
Don
Irene?
Johnson- I was going to say Don Johnson just randomly sends me like boxes of ear pods and stuff.
Yeah.
That's a good idea. Okay. I had some, like I said, I went to some old conference ones, like one's lesson picks, one's Toby Dynavox, and I was like, ooh, I like this one. It's the soft ribbon. It's not like the cottony. I don't know.
Yeah.
That sort of cottony one is yucky, I think.
Or you should just tell
DRC
us.
probably has a bunch before they merged. They probably have a bunch laying around they can't use anymore.
Yeah, it's a good
Oh,
idea
okay.
too. Right. Or let us know which ones you like. I have a whole box of lanyards in my basement.
Yeah, the
Because-
tricky thing is like I need the one that's like the suitcase strap that has like the two swivel
Oh,
kind of
gee.
things.
Oh.
So not the ones that are like
Yeah, not the one with the little clip at the end, but the one with the two clips, one on either end.
exactly.
Show it to us. Let's see. And then people will be like, oh, I have those in my office here.
No, so they gave me these like really okay, it's plastic.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's gonna hurt, but it only has like the one clip.
Hmm.
So I need one that has like two of these little swivel things on it
Yeah. On either side.
on either side.
So not a
because-
loop, but actually just one long strand with two hooks on it.
Yeah, so it's wider because when it's tight like that, and then plus you get the whole like you're wearing your communication device like this, and that's
Mhm.
like But what happened was we were ordering ones from PEX, which were great because they were the two hooks, but they made a little breakaway thing, which they should, because for safety for our students,
Yeah.
so they don't like wrap it around their neck is important. But then it made it like my kids with autism are just gonna like pull it apart. That's just like a little point of interest. So it's not so good. Sorry.
Like anything else, if it's adjustable, it will come out of adjustment. If it's breakaway, someone will break it away at some point. We don't want
and
them
then
to.
right, exactly. And then the student's iPad communication device will fall and break. Anyway.
And as it's falling, you have those two fluttering ends of your lanyard on either side as it hits the ground. Oh,
Yeah. So
that's funny.
no, well, so I get to dig into like fun stuff like that.
Yeah, that is fun.
Uh,
That feels like a good week before Thanksgiving thing to do. I like that. Anybody else? Other projects you have going on that you want to share with the group? I like that we're a very tiny group today. Maybe people have started to take days off. Do you think? I thought about it. I'm not going to do it, but I thought about it. That'd be nice. I'm looking at my Google Keep. If anybody wants to hit one of these, let's see. How do you balance staff desire to learn about tools versus process? If any of these interest you, jump on. Coaching strategies to improve consideration. Reducing staff frustration. Building capacity. Increase access to resources. Device abandonment. Causes, strategies to reduce that. That's our topics.
How about causes and strategies to reduce abandonment and get your work, your assistants, et cetera, to buy in?
All right. That
So that
sounds good to
reduces
me.
your abandonment at program.
Yeah. So tell us your issue there, Lori.
Well, I walked into a room to go check up on somebody and they had gone out for their morning drive, so to speak. We're adults. They go on field trips a lot. And there's his device sitting there. And he can use his device. It's not like he can't.
Yeah.
It would be one thing if it was just a table ornament. It's not for him.
Yeah.
Like, oh.
So it just didn't hit in his mind. There was no value to bring it. Is that what you're feeling?
I'm guessing because this is not the first time it's been sitting there.
Hmm.
I've walked in the room at least 3 times a week, and several times it's been there and they've been out. They went bowling and they left it. I'm like, okay, he could at least talk to you during bowling, So
Gail Porter does a whole session called "Did You Take It to a Party?" And it's one of the measures that she does with her young adults and adults of how important that AAC system has become a part of, integrated into their own lives. Not that somebody else is responsible for them
Right.
to put, but did they take it to a party? It's she's done presentations at Isaac and other conferences on it, but maybe do a search on that on the internet.
Yeah.
There's some nice strategies, and of course I can't remember all of them. With
that's
some
okay.
of
I
my,
colored it in.
with some of my students, we build it into the social story so that as they're getting ready to go somewhere, or in my case, it's making sure that parapros are using their AAC system while they're doing an activity. And so, and a lot of this happened nicely through COVID because they were doing so much virtually, and it would be, I'm learning letters, so to help me read, and I use this, and I use my device to answer the question, and so I have the device written right into the social story, so that if it doesn't happen to be right where they're doing the activity, somebody's getting it and bringing it over.
Yeah. I like that. Is the device large where that is a concern?
It's a NovaChat 8, NovaChat 8 with a handle intact.
Okay.
Now, I will give him this caveat. He got it 2 years ago and it was programmed with absolutely nothing. He couldn't even tell you his name.
Mm.
He's very proud to tell you when his birthday is. It wasn't in there and everything. So I just got him on my caseload 2 weeks ago. And the first thing I did was put his name and his birth date in there, and he was so happy. So we are in the process of revamping it to be more user-friendly, but he's in a 60. There's enough in there that he can talk about a few things,
Yeah.
Anyway.
But having all
It's
that all
my
about me
soapbox.
stuff, I mean,
I
for
like
somebody that sounds like this person's very social,
Very social.
Yeah.
yeah, you need that. Then
Very
like have all kinds of the crazy,
yeah.
like
No, he
hellos
needs,
and goodbyes.
right. He
Yeah,
needs
I
a
have a
couple
kid
of
that has
quick
like 2
fires.
pages of goodbye messages.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, he doesn't. That many might overwhelm him, but still, the point is,
Yeah.
yes, he needs
Yeah.
to be able to, because he's constantly going up and tapping you to get your attention as you're walking by him to talk to you. And some people just turn around and go the other way. And I'm like, yeah, no, that's got to stop too.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. There's a lot of stuff. Yeah. He's not getting the reinforcement of any of these
No,
interactions. Right?
and yeah, well, and nobody's been around to do that. I am the first.
Yeah.
So myself and my SLP partner are the first. So,
Yeah. So what do you think? What Lori is the first step for this?
oh, getting appropriate language on his device.
Okay, yeah, that sounds
which
like
I'm doing. We're there. We're there. I almost have it. I have to ask a few more questions,
yeah.
but I almost have that revamped for him. But it's a general problem throughout. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 people that just came on my caseload this month, and they all have already acquired devices within the last 2 prior to COVID. And of course, then we went out with COVID, so nothing's been done with them, and none of them are programmed with any personal need things in there. They're not customized at all.
Yeah.
So this is going to be a whole building problem.
Yeah, that's a process. It's a longer term process, but yeah, you might get some really quick solution there by just getting some language that has value to him, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
that's
clearly
what I'm
it's not
trying to get now.
valuable. Yeah.
I have to get him to fill out the vocabulary surveys. I have to find out if he's going home for Thanksgiving. Get his parents to fill one out.
Yeah, that's good. Get
Or
that
family.
on. Get people using those devices because it's actually where it makes sense to use them. Yeah, that's interesting. Any other thoughts on strategies to reduce this abandonment, either Lori's or anybody else's? Like, what have we done? What are some strategies you've used?
I would say talking to their communication partners if you can, because oftentimes we're their only communication partner, and that's so contrived. And so trying to get some sort of
we've got some
family
situations like that, and we've got a couple of our SLPs, amazing. She's not here today, so I can say that. And she's got 2 people that have come an amazing distance, and the only people they converse with are me and her. We got to get that changed. And she is working on it. She's going through the halls with him and getting him to talk to people, but they have to, come respond back.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, so there's your 2-pronged approach
process.
there, right? It's the getting language on there that works for that individual, but getting the communication partners on board with their value, having them understand their value in this whole process.
Yeah, well, that's got me slightly frustrated because tomorrow is an all agency in-service day, and neither my partner nor I knew anything about it. And I'm like, you could have put us on the docket,
Yeah.
So the next one is, there'll be another one, but still.
Yeah. Yeah, that is unfortunate. That's such a missed opportunity and so frustrating.
Totally missed, because it's the entire agency and they do it twice a year. And I'm like, oh man.
And I always like to think that people that are managing those kind of in-service days or things like that are most times desperate for content and people who are willing to deliver it.
Yeah.
So they don't have to do the same things over and over again. Or the person organizing it gets stuck doing a bunch of things because no one else volunteered to do anything.
Well, not everybody knows we're here yet. So I suspect by the next one in the spring, we'll be on the docket. I'll be asking for ideas.
Can you find some way, Lori, to steal 5 minutes out of the day from people? Even if it's grabbing a microphone really fast and just getting something out? No, I maybe not grab a microphone.
We've been talking about doing short and snappy little video things so that they can watch them in their pajamas and get credit. But we just found out that we can do that. All the good HIPAA stuff is all signed, and we can put things up on our Google. So we're getting there. It's a slow process.
Yeah. Is anything
we got to
up there
get
now?
parent permission. Not yet. Oh, my ASL class is up there. My Lunch with Lori ASL class is up there.
Nice.
Because people requested, hey, we need to sign. I'm like, okay, I can fix that.
Maybe that's something. Maybe, Lori, tomorrow you find, is there a way that could even be announced to the group, right? Could that even be announced to the group? Like, oh, could we take just 30 seconds so I can share this resource with the whole group?
Yeah. We're not even invited to it. My partner and I aren't even invited to the activity.
Wow.
We've got permission to be somewhere else and do all our paperwork and stuff. And I'm like, I'm going to be here. I've got stuff I need to make, so maybe I can walk in on that. Yeah. Just kind of walk in.
That's a cool move too. Like casually, like, oh, I'm sorry, is something happening here? That's cool.
In my supervisor's defense, she had to go home for an emergency, and she's the coordinator of the whole thing. So
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
can't
it's
blame,
just
I
it's just
can't
such,
blame her this time.
such missed opportunities, right? To have that opportunity to be in front of everyone.
Yeah.
And that's those moments where you start to think of, if I got everyone's ear for 2 minutes, what would I say?
Yeah.
Right? Like
Oh, I like that.
what is my my elevator pitch to my organization?
We've been working on this because,
Mhm.
yeah, we did an AAC awareness week. And when I realized that my teachers and SLPs couldn't like condense what they were going to say into 1 or 2 minutes, like what is AAC and what can I do when I'm listening or supporting somebody who uses AAC. And so I was like, oh, okay, I'm going to tell you what you need to say. Like at first I was like, I'll just coach them, but the answers were so long and they're really knowledgeable, but to be able to say that elevator pitch, they almost couldn't. So modeling that for them, and then you can say, if somebody asks about this, you can respond in this way. And it's almost like your elevator pitch then becomes theirs.
Yes.
So
Yeah. And maybe that's a great way to start that conversation of here's an elevator pitch. And it gives them some confidence of recognizing, oh, this is short and people won't kind of zone out. Because that's always our struggle. I'm just like your staff, Lauren, are struggling. I struggle with this a lot because when you're excited and passionate about a topic, you want to tell someone everything you know because it's the most important thing and they should know it. And then you have to regroup and say, well, wait a second, they don't nearly care about this as much as I do yet. Maybe they will at some point, maybe they never will. So I have to find some way to kind of hook them in that's digestible for people. I was like going back to, there was a grant that I was working on up in Massachusetts, and kind of as an end of the grant, we had said to the people that were taking the project, that were participating in the project, at the end, we want you to start thinking about putting a presentation together for your administration to talk about what you did in this and the things you learned and how it helped the students that you work with. And so think about what you would say. And so one of the ladies in the group said, oh, I've been given 15 minutes in front of our superintendent to share about assistive technology. And I'm like, oh, that's awesome. That's great. And she's like, so I put together this really nice presentation. Can you look at it and give me some feedback? I said, yeah, of course. So we got on a little call like this and she went through the slides and they were really good, but they were very dense with information. It was like, here's the set framework and blah, blah, blah. And it went for like 3 or 4 slides. And here's quiet. And this is 3 or 4 slides. And here's some different areas of assistive technology, 3 or 4 slides. And then she got to this last slide and it was just a picture of a student that she worked with in class, smiling, using their technology, working with their friends. And she said to me, if I have time, I'm going to just share this story about how technology helped this student. And I said, you know what? Take every slide before this and throw it away.
Yeah.
And just show this slide and just talk about this student, how you help this student because of the things you learned, and start to weave a couple things in. Leave them wanting more, but leave them that picture of a real student in your school that they should know. And so that was and that became her elevator pitch. And it was interesting when she was done, she said, yeah, I was nervous not having any slides, but we talked for the whole 15 minutes and people were really interested. And I'm like, good. And I said, did you leave that picture of that student up the whole time? And she said, yeah, that picture was up behind me the whole time. I'm like, perfect. That should be that's a perfect background, because that's a great indicator of what you're doing and how you're helping. And then the next time you see them, maybe you talk about set. And maybe you talk about quiet and you work those things in a little bit. But, start with something that people get, which is you helped a student be successful.
Yeah, the story is so powerful. Yeah. And people always say, oh, I'm passionate about, the single story or But I said, but this is how leaders lead. I mean, this is how effective leaders lead through application and showing how it applied to a case, whatever it may be, in our case, student or individual that we worked with. And that's not everybody, but that's how it's going to get somebody interested in what do you do and how do you make a difference. The other day we had some I don't know, some hourly contractors that were doing some work on a new building for us. And we were trying to get the speaker tower wall mounts put up we have the speaker towers from Phonak for our students who have hearing impairments and need amplification. So, finally I get down and it's like all these like emails and, then I email the supervisor and I realize that the guy is on it and my name, my title is doctor. So he's like, oh my God, he thinks, I don't think anything of it. But then when I saw the email, I thought, oh my gosh, he doesn't know who I am. And he sees somebody with a doctorate, like emailing him. He's probably so nervous. So I just said, thank you so much. You're doing such a great job. We really appreciate it. These two that didn't get in the right location, it's a very complex directions and really specific. I said, I wanted you to know that because of the work that you're doing, the students can participate in school because these are meant for students who have a hearing loss and they may wear a hearing aid or need amplification of what the teacher says in all school locations. You're making it possible for the student to participate in school. And he was like, thank you so much for saying that, because they don't really know why they're doing this. They just know that the mount that was here needs to move over here.
Exactly.
So it can be by the plug. Like,
Yeah.
The hourly contractor guy, he was getting kind of like lost in all this stuff. So, and I just want, just to tell him about the students that are going to be using that or why it's important, that makes the work. He did it then right away. He didn't put it on the list of things to do, on the construction punch list at the
Right,
end.
Exactly. Yeah.
So,
Well, you assigned value to it and value to him as part of your team, right? You
Yeah.
are important to our team because we can't get this part done without you. And because of you, our team is better and this student will succeed now.
Yeah, we do a lot of like demos when we get new equipment for technology, for finance, for whoever's helped us kind of on the process. And that was really helpful. Like I said, this is the $7,000 communication device that you just ordered from PRC. This is what it does. This is how it goes into switch scanning, blah, blah, blah. And I showed them and they were so appreciative. The tech guys were like, oh, this is Windows based, and they're like going into it. My finance guys are like, oh, now I understand why you need to have a sole source, because if you order two of these, you're over $10,000. And in our organization, if you get over $10,000, it's like a big deal. You have to have like competitive prices.
Right. It's got to be
and all that.
competitive bids and stuff. Yeah.
Exactly. So, but if you order one communication device out of pocket, and so anyhow, it just is really helpful to be able to speak that department's language or to be able to show how they contributed to it. And it's made a world of difference to break down some of those silos. And, so getting that 15 minutes in front of everybody is really important.
It's
because
huge, right?
You got to take that opportunity,
and
especially if they
like
don't give it to you.
Yeah,
You take
exactly.
it.
If they're going to give it to you, you got to take that. And that idea of humanizing this. And then it's not just me asking you to do something all the time, right? It's not me asking the IT guy, can you just do this again? Can you do this? Can you do this? It's me asking for a purpose. And the purpose is this little person right here. And here's why we're doing it. And it really is powerful to put a face on those kind of things and remind people what we're all there doing, right? We're all there, whether it's the contractor who came in to put anchors into the wall, or the audiologist, or the speech pathologist, or the administrator, or the finance person. We're all there so that one student can successfully move through our school and learn. And I think those are really important to remind people that that's why you're there, especially for people that don't kind of mingle with students very often, or with adults if you work with adults. Finance people tech people,
Yeah.
sometimes even administrators that don't really get a chance to mingle with the end user. And I always think that's really
Right.
interesting, that idea of taking some time and just kind of walking through a program, whether it's an
Yeah.
adult or a student program, doesn't matter, walking through and encouraging them to ask questions, or maybe have people share things with them, invite them in to your room. You know, like when your things get mounted to the wall, invite the superintendent over to say, look, we have these new things in the room and this is really being helpful. It's helpful. And thank you.
As soon as we did that, so we did this whole demo for AAC Awareness Week. Most recently, this is like one of our demos. And we were showing the 3D symbols that we started making. I said, I just got access to a 3D printer and, you know, here are some. And I was showing them. They were like, oh, this is so cool. Hey, did you know that when our sixth graders are trying out electives, every single one of them has to take this like tech class as part of the wheel of electives that they take, like they take art, music, tech, anyway. And the director of information services says to us, he said, or the chief of information services, who's like our assistant superintendent, he says, why are they just making like a little sign that says like the school's name? Like, can we make something meaningful for the student?
Right.
I'm like, I
Oh,
think that would be great. How
that's-
about like, let's make a set of these.
what an excellent idea you've just had. I love that idea.
But it's like he came up with it and he says, oh, I'm going to connect you to the people. He went back to his desk and emailed a whole team of people. And he says, okay, you take it with Lauren and you run with it. And, you know, we're going to try it at this school first. But he's the direct, you know, he's the assistant superintendent. He can make that happen in a
Right.
way that I can't wave my magic wand and make it happen.
Exactly.
But
Yeah.
like when he says it, it gets done.
And
So,
and there is some value, Lauren, in having him come to that moment by himself with some
Mhm.
like guidance from us as we go through, but have him be able to be the one that actually verbalizes that. Because you're right, my first step would always be, dude, we need to be making with a purpose right here. And I would be so laser focused on reminding someone of that sometimes you forget. If you just kind of move the conversation in that way, people will come there to they'll come to that realization on their own. And that is much more powerful. You have an ally forever now with that
Yeah.
person.
Yeah. And it's just, I mean, it feels weird when you're doing coaching reverse because
Yeah.
you don't usually coach your assistant superintendent or
Exactly.
something, your supervisor, your boss, whoever it might be. But when they come up with that idea themselves, then they're like, and then they're the ones saying and reporting back to their supervisor. So our superintendent or the school board and saying, hey, what about this cool project we're doing? You know, because they came up with it. So they have a vested stake in it.
Yeah.
So
And those are the kind of things that people want to see, right? The superintendent wants to know something like that. The board of education wants to know something like that, because like you said before, stories are so powerful. People want a story. They want to face and they want to hear about it.
yeah.
And so if we can find ways to do that, and, you know, whether it's bringing people to board of education meetings, or when I used to work at a nonprofit with adults, we would get, like, they had meetings every 3 months. And so like every half a year, so twice a year, we would get a chance to spotlight some kind of technology advancement we've done in the past 6 months. And we would always bring individuals with us and they would talk about it, not me or not my
Great
director,
idea.
but they would talk about it like, oh, you were part of this project. Come with us to the board of directors meeting. And I always remember those as being really funny, because this was an organization that served adults with disabilities, various disabilities, physical and cognitive, all kinds of disabilities. I always left those board of director meetings with this thought in the back of my head. Is this the first time some of you have ever been in a conversation with an adult with a disability?
Mm,
Because these are community
Good
partners that
point.
come in their parts of boards, and that's really important. But I think these are such powerful opportunities to be like, no, these are the people we are serving right now. You're
Mhm.
talking about fiscal things and all that, you know, buildings and things like that. And those are all obviously really important. But, you know, ultimately we're talking about this person or this person, because they're the people that come here. And that's who's being helped by what you're doing. And I always thought some of the best times in those meetings were like we would go to the meeting and they would invite us to stay for the dinner that was there, which tended to be like a little buffet or something. And we would always stay. And I remember just laughing at times, watching these board members who had never really interacted with our individuals we served, sitting and having dinner with them and just chatting about stuff, and just about, nothing. Things you chat about when you're in a meeting, just kind of nothing. What do you watch on TV? What do you like? What do you do? Those kind of things. And I thought, oh, that's so powerful, because that whole group, the next time one of our technology requests comes through, they're going to have a face to put to that now. Not my face or not my director, but the people we're working with. And I always thought that was powerful. And I was always so happy when those things happened. And it was worth being there for one of those 9-hour days from 9 o'clock to 9 o'clock at night. It was worth it every once in a while, because they were just so funny. It was just a good time. But so important.
Yeah, definitely. If you can get them to come out and see them in action, that's really, they're like, oh, okay. Because I have this one student who has CP and so bright, and the way that he interacts with his communication device on his computer, and we built him this like adapted mouse because he uses the key guard on his PRC device. Then we have to get him, he has a Bluetooth to his computer, and we're primarily a Mac district. And they were like, well, why do you have to buy a PC? And I'm like, well, because he's Windows based. His communication system's Windows based. We have to buy him this. So, that whole barrier. And then once they saw him and what he had to do to participate in, Virginia studies in 4th grade, I said to the testing accommodation person, I said, do you understand why he needs, he also has low vision and some other needs. So I was like, do you understand the amount, like why he needs extra time? Do you understand why he needs, the paper test that he can then put under the CCTV, and why he can't just do it on the iPad? Because he can't interact with the iPad, but he could interact with his computer. Could he do that? And there was all these like kind of barriers. And so once he saw him in action, he goes, I totally get it. And then he could describe the kind of things that he did need, or he saw some of the barriers or the challenges, and he then got in on the creative thinking, like, how can we do that? Because we know that he knows all of this, but if he can't see the map of Virginia, how can he respond to the question? And so sometimes he can enlarge on whatever, other times he can't. And then he has to talk about it, and he has to direct through his communication device, but then all the access issues, to say, okay, it's not A, it's not B, move this. Like we have tech enhanced questions where you have to drag and drop.
Okay.
And so he would have to say, take A and move it to D, move it to 3, take B and move it to 1. And so he'd have to like kind of describe some of these things. Like that is so much effort and work when the student could really just show you how he knows that in another way.
And especially because he knows it. And if we had the access figured out, he could just do that. We wouldn't have to go through this whole process of move this here, then go up a little and to the right, all that all those descriptors.
Yeah. So it was really helpful when he was in 3rd grade, at the beginning of 3rd grade, to have him come and see the student, so that I could start to say, like, I want you to get to know him, because this is in 3rd grade when he starts to take the state assessments, and we have to get the approved accommodations. I want you to know him because he is the end user, and he's also maybe like the most complicated. So if we design for him, or you're in your testing accommodation approval meeting, like that you could speak to, we have students whose bodies, are complex, and whose communication is complex, and their thinking is complex. They have complex thoughts and ideas, and how they can, communicate those or show what they know. So, because a lot of the time I was like, yeah, I think you did the test failed in terms of accessibility. The student didn't fail the assessment. So,
exactly. The access was the failure there. It wasn't the student. Yeah. Right.
And he totally got it. And then he was like, oh, my buddy. And he would go and see the student, when something else would come up. And so, that is always, that's really, really important.
Yeah. Personalize these things, make these abstract kind of, assistive, inclusive technology things that we're talking about, making that abstract real for people, making it something
Yeah.
concrete.
And being at an organization for a long time really helps to build that trust and those relationships and those kind of partnerships. But I'm sure everybody else is dealing with like what we're dealing with. There's like new people. I don't even know who some of the people are.
Yeah.
They're changing over. We're having a lot of, teacher attrition and administrator attrition even. So that's hard because I'm like, oh, that guy, he was so good. I worked with him for so long and now he's working for another district,
Yeah.
which in terms of his professional learning, he's doing great for this other district. But I'm like, okay, who's the person that's new in that position? I got to get them out to see that kid.
Right. Yeah. How do I then retrain or re-engage that new person in that same role?
Yeah, it's hard because it takes so long to build capacity.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I think and people are just burned out.
Well, yeah, that's the other part too. Yeah, and I'm watching Irene shake her head. Yeah, and I think part of this, all of these things we're talking about take time and effort.
Mhm.
And I don't know that those are two things that a lot of people have excess of right now.
Yeah.
And so, again, it's about an economy of our actions and words right now. How do we get the biggest bang for a buck?
Mhm.
And it's really hard. I did something last week and we were done at the end of an hour. And I was talking to the group about our next step. Like, what should we plan to do next time? And someone in the group said, and I appreciate it, and it's valuable to hear. Someone in the group turned her mic on, someone who had not engaged at all in the session. And again, that's fine. And that's okay. And she said, you know what, I'm going to be honest. And right away, I was like, oh boy, hold on, here it comes.
Yeah.
The minute
Yeah.
someone starts with, I'm going to be honest, I'm about to get beaten down. But she said, to be honest, I don't know that I have the energy for this right now. So I don't think I'm going to come next time. And I was like, oh, okay, that's fine. I think that's valid. The thing that made me concerned is there were then 3 other people who were on camera who started to nod their head too, like, yeah, I'm with you. I don't want to. And so right after
And you're
we were
like,
done,
how could I make this meaningful for you? Because
yeah.
you're
And
either
then
assigned to, or we don't have to do it. Because if
Well,
it's a
and
nice to
that's just
have,
it.
then let's not do it.
Yeah. And so looking at them kind of jump on board with this one person who was like, I just don't have time or energy for this. Led to a really good conversation with the person who was my contact afterwards. And we had a really good discussion about, is meeting once a month the right way to go with this group right now? And maybe it's not. And maybe it's in every other month, or maybe it's smaller meetings. Is it quarterly meetings? And so we started to kind of reassess where we were. And I'll tell you, this was at the end of a 2-hour virtual meeting. It had a lot of stuff in it. Even though there were breaks and we took some time and we did some group activities, it was still, you looked at the clock, we were there for two full hours. We were there. And so, I think that's a real legitimate discussion point, that maybe people are not looking for that right now.
Yeah, I think that's really true. People are not taking on any extras.
Yeah.
I just started a cohort for LAMP certification. And I said, I emailed out and I said, it might not be the right time for any of you, but the plan is that if you do it from January until June. So we're gonna have an info session, give you the information. And I'm getting a few nibbles from people who are long time been with our organization, long time invested in AAC and want to, sort of bump up to the next more advanced level of professional learning in this area. But I was not expecting more than a couple people. So yeah, people are just not taking on extra or new.
No, and I get it. And I think that's fine. I think
I kind of felt bad asking, but I was like, you know what, if somebody really is ready and they've got a handle on their caseload, this could be a really good time for them because, a few of them were in a position where they had a student they were working closely with and they wanted to do it, and it kind of goes hand in hand. Some of them are up for recertification or renewal of their licensure or whatever. So I want to offer it, but I really wasn't expecting a huge like, yeah, I'm going to be on
like people
board.
to come beating down your door to sign up, right?
Yeah, I was like, oh, we got 5. I mean, 5 out of like 50 people. And
Yeah.
especially because we are down 6 or 6.5 positions, so it's kind of a lot.
That is a lot. Yeah, right. I have that same thought. Is it, I had these big thoughts in the summer of how it was going to look when I went into some projects for the fall. And we've
Mhm.
had to reassess because it's just not, people just don't have that bandwidth right now to do some of these things. So it's kind of the same thing, Lauren, is you put it out there, provided you have the bandwidth for it. I think there's a
Yeah.
conversation to be had that there's points where, like I said in the beginning, that I'm starting to lack bandwidth to do some of these things. Like I
Mhm.
just don't feel the drive to do some of these things.
Yeah.
But finding these couple things and kind of meeting people where they are and say, all right, this might have at one point been a 4-month process, but now maybe it's a 7-month process.
Yeah.
And that's okay. I mean, I think that's part of it too, is say, that's an all right thing, that it's going to be a little longer. And it's going to be a little different in how you interact with them and the things that you ask of them.
Yeah.
I'm teaching a master's class this semester, and I have been for the past few semesters, but for some reason this semester it feels more like I feel the heaviness when I see people on the call. And so we have these pretty big projects that we're supposed to work on for the actual grades. And a lot of times our class, it's an AT class, and it tends to be more experiences, and we just kind of work through things and explore. But I do have to have grades for a couple things. So I have these couple projects, and I completely changed the way we did them. And I said to them last week, I said, we're going to spend our class time tonight working on this project together. You can work together if you want. You can work separate if you want. You can work in a small group. I could put you in a breakout. We can do anything you want, but I'm not giving us anything to do in class. We're just working on this project. The theory being, when class time is done tonight, you should be able to hand this in. No extra work, no work on your own. And so that's the approach I'm taking this semester. And it seems to be helping, because I'm getting people that are more engaged because they're realizing that we're going to be doing things. It's a chunk of time they've already blocked out in their calendar.
Mm-hmm.
And to know that it's going to happen then, and it's not going to bleed off into other things, is made for really good conversations, actually. So it's been a shift, but it's been a good shift.
Yeah, I've been trying to do a lot of things like that. Almost if we have to meet in person for anything, that it's like I just carved this time out for getting the work done that you already knew that was like on your plate, like some professional learning you already had to do, or like, let's just do it together. Let's make that lesson together now, not let's talk about it and then you do it on your own. Because I know that people don't have time to follow up.
Right.
I don't either.
Yeah.
I can't like track down, or if they send me an email, it's going to get, 300 deep in my inbox and I'm not going to see it. And then it's going to be too late. So I do have to kind of do some of those here and now things.
Yeah. It is interesting.
So I do have a question though about your grading, because I always struggle with this.
Yeah.
So I teach adjunct, and I haven't actually in a couple of years because my kids were just so little. And last time I was doing it was really hard because my little guy was just around his first birthday. And I was like, this is just, I gotta take
hard.
a little break.
Yeah.
And so I took a little break, but it always drives me crazy. I hate doing grades. I really do.
I do too.
I like hate it. I just want to say, what goal? I almost want to do a coaching session at the beginning of the semester and say, here are learning objectives. Which 3 do you want to focus on this semester? And how are you going to know that you've mastered that, and show me that you've mastered that? And then I can go back to them and say, okay, did you master them? You get an A. Like,
Right. Yeah.
I'm happy, right? Like a lot of people just say, oh, I'm paying for this class, I want to get an A. Like I taught at a university where students felt like they were in the master's program or the PhD program. They paid for the class. they felt like their intellectual achievements and their financial contributions, they should all get A's. So I'm like, I don't want to stand in the way. You can get an A, but if you leave here without knowing the content, that's on you. Like you're going to have to remember AT whatever, or AAC whatever, or speech language pathology whatever, or special ed whatever. That's on you, your responsibility. So I don't know, I'm just kind of curious, like, did you ever like blow up the system and like be like, you can just give yourself whatever grade you want?
Yeah, grading is really hard, and I struggle with it every semester because I don't like giving grades. And as I say to them in the beginning, I'm going with the assumption you will all get an A as long as you are engaged in this class throughout. So, we talk about that a lot, and I talk about a lot of the things we do are meant to help them when they're done with the class. Like they have an entire PLN project that they have to do. Bye, Irene.
Irene.
They have to do they have to create a deeper professional learning network. And that is a participation grade for the year.
Yeah.
And I always say to them, this is going to look different for every single one of you. But as long as each of you is further along at the end of the semester than you were at the beginning, that to me is an A. You've made progress. You've carved out a plan for yourself as you go forward. That to me is a success. And so I think that where there are grades given, they are definitely defined differently in my brain than I think some other professor.
Yeah.
And there's very few projects they do during the semester that actually get a grade. This activity we just did is a graded project. It's taking an IEP and teasing out who this student is through a set process and coming up with some technology recommendations. And again, everybody's going to look a little different, but that's okay. Did you work the process? You work the process and understand that is an A. Whether I agree with your tool at the end is irrelevant, because if we were a team, so we just had this conversation. If we were a team, we would trial this tool now. Yeah. And maybe it would work, maybe it wouldn't. And that's okay. That's not a pass or fail. We would try it. You had a good rationale. We'll see what happens. And so the grades look a little weird as we go through, but yeah, I don't like grading. I said to say it to somebody last semester, I'm like, please don't make me give you a B. I don't want to. I just don't want to.
Yeah, I had a student, my last most difficult student that I had, she didn't want to do the work.
Yeah.
And she was leaving the class. So the classes was 4.5 hours because it was a cohort class, and it was during the summer semester, which was like May, June, and July.
Okay. So it got added a little time each time also. Yeah.
Yeah. And she's, either a teacher or a teacher assistant working on licensure for adapted curriculum in Virginia. And, she worked with kids with autism, because she always said, I wear shirts about autism a lot. And, I was like, okay, I know a little about you. Mm-hmm. And the excuses that started coming out, it just made me really mad, because other students wanted to leave because the class was from, I think it was 5 to 9:30. Everybody was at the break at 7 o'clock. They're like, can we just go? And I'm like, we can't. This class has to be a certain number of hours, because it's a shorter class. It's only 10 weeks and not 16. Mm-hmm. And it only meets once a week. And I have to do some things, but not every professor did the same process.
Yeah. So
that was really hard. And then she said, oh, well, she started going into something that I was like, yeah, you don't want to challenge me on that. She's like, oh, I need accommodations for my vision. And I'm like, okay. She says, I can't drive when it's dark out. And I'm like, well, first of all, it's summer. I don't know what you did during winter, but it's lighter for much longer. And then I just said, okay, well, bring, whatever the disability service office send me the accommodations. I was like, you don't want to challenge me. I'm like, right. I am going to give you those accommodations. So
Of
my
course.
entire job is about giving people accommodations.
I
that they need.
understand that. This, you've hit my wheelhouse. I get it.
Yeah. And then she kept saying, she was sending me things. I said, I can't do it unless I get it from the disability services office. This like, it has to go through and be approved by them. This is just the process. And you're in your third semester. And I'm sorry that you didn't do this before then. And that other professors, I don't know, you talked to them or whatever, made accommodation off of the recommended, but you need to learn how to navigate this process for you. Because if this is an ongoing chronic condition for you, then, you know, you need to know how to do this.
Yeah.
So she just kept saying, I have to leave. I have to leave. And she would just leave. And I was like, part of the class is being here. And then I was like, I just really hate this conversation. So I said, well, why don't you take the class at a time that's better for you?
Right.
Like you can take the online cohort, you could take, you know, whatever. This class isn't the only one that's offered. So that was just so tricky. And then just like my heart sank and I was like, oh, I don't know if I can teach right now. I don't know if I have energy to do it.
It's a lot, especially when you spend your time. And I realize we're after 1, so we'll wrap up. But I think it's interesting when you spend your time, as you do, as I do, as a lot of us do, working with adults in professional learning, which is not about grades. It's about just sharing of information. That shifting gears there to actually attach a grade to it is tricky. And having to deal with some of those other issues, somebody doesn't want to come, or, you know,
like this is optional. Like you don't have to be here. You don't have to do a master's degree in adapted curriculum, you know?
Yeah.
But she felt like she had to for some reason or whatever. I don't know. But it's always so hard.
It is hard. Yeah, it's definitely not easy. And, you know, it's so funny. Every semester I get like 10 weeks in and I'm like, all right, that's it. I'm not doing it again. It's too much.
I know. Same.
And then I get a couple weeks off and I'm like, sure, all right, I'll do it again. What the heck?
Because we love the content and we love sharing it with other people. And making it easier for them to start in the field and have the right tools and all these things. Like I'm like, we have to capacity build the people. We need to keep teaching. Who else is teaching?
So funny. Yeah. I just got the email at the beginning of the week. Are you in for the spring? And I haven't responded because I'm in that zone right now. Like, ugh, I've had enough. Give me like 2 more weeks. I'm like, yeah, right. Whatever. Yeah. Okay. That's fine. So
it's a big commitment. It really is.
It's too much. All right, everybody. Well, we did it. It's 1:03. Why don't you go finish the last 2 days of our week before Thanksgiving? And everybody have a very happy Thanksgiving. Lauren, it was good seeing you today. I'm glad you joined us.
Yeah, you too.
Yeah. And everybody enjoy your time off. Don't do any work.
Yes. Don't do any work.
I'm
very much looking forward to like turning off the computer, not just like sleeping it, like it is off.
I thought the same thing. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to turn my computer off so that I don't walk past and just hit the mouse and have it come back on. No, I'm going to shut it down. So yes, I would encourage all of you to do that. Take some time and regroup, and we'll see everybody next Monday for another town hall.
Sounds good. Bye.
Right. Take care, everybody. See you later.